Welcome to Under the Rug at Work, where I shine light on problems that are normally swept under the rug. Today I'm chatting with Eloise about self-sabotage. Eloise is a psychologist and performance coach who helps people get over themselves so that they can get ahead in their careers. Thanks so much for joining me, Eloise.
Super excited. Always love talking about these topics.
So let's start with what is self-sabotage and why do we do it?
I think we generally have this idea of what self-sabotage is, right? And I guess the way that I kind of look at self-sabotage is it's the behavior that we, I guess, engage in, or something that we do that gets in the way of something that we actually want for our life. So, but we end up doing something a little bit different and not achieving the goal. And then it can become really difficult. So self-sabotage, when we self-sabotage in whatever kind of way, it prevents us from getting the thing that we actually want.
Mm.
And and what was the other question? Why do we do it?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, this is such a fun question, because there's so many reasons as to why we self-sabotage. And I think the first thing to acknowledge is, like, generally we don't self-sabotage consciously. A lot of the times it's kind of unconscious. We have this goal, we want to achieve it. And a lot of the time there's something internal going on for us. We might think that we're not good enough. We might think that I'm not going to be able to do this. I've tried this before and it hasn't worked. Why would it happen again? Or we get messages from our environment when we're younger. We get messages from society, and all of these become so internalized that we don't actually realize that they're there. We're just kind of living our life day by day. And then we kind of say, oh yeah, I'd like to become this job title, and go for that job title, or I'd like to start a business, and then find that those old patterns, old beliefs that we've kind of accumulated throughout the years creep up on us and are like, no.
Yeah.
But we don't realize it. It's just kind of like on autopilot, which makes it really hard to then shift the behaviors that we would like to do instead.
Yeah, that's so true. And as you were talking, imposter syndrome came to mind. And I know for myself personally that in the past, when I've wanted to go for a better job or a higher paid job, I've sometimes sabotaged my own success by not even applying because I felt like, well, I don't have all the criteria, or I tried this job title before and I wasn't successful. So what's going to be different this time? And yeah, I did that quite a few times until I got to the point where I went, well, what's the worst that can happen? Let's dive in and let's see what the outcomes are. And if it's good, great, I'll go from there. But I got to the point where I said, I don't want to prevent my success by not even putting my hat in the ring, or by not speaking up in a meeting, for example, or by not doing something different in a team meeting if it was going off track. Just for example, you sit there and you go through all of the what ifs, and as you said, all of the things that we've done in the past, or our upbringing in the past. And yeah, it really can prevent us and hold us back, especially in the workplace and in life. And you said it was not a conscious decision, and I totally understand that. But how do we recognize that we might be sabotaging our success? What are some of the clues and the keys so that people, if they're listening, can kind of pick up on those to know that they might be conducting self-sabotage?
Yeah, conducting self-sabotage. I love that. It's interesting because you kind of identified some of the things within yourself, right? Like we kind of hit this almost this rock bottom, like, why are things not going the way that I would like them to? And being able to reflect on that is kind of that step number one, like, okay, so I'm putting these goals out for myself. Why am I not kind of achieving them? What's getting in the way, and being able to kind of self-reflect on that is really key. I also think I wanted to touch on imposter syndrome as well, because I think that's a really key thing as well. Self-sabotage, I think, is just like the ways that it shows up are things like procrastinating. It shows up in terms of knowing that there's something that you want to be doing or need to be doing, need to be getting done, but we keep putting it off because it just feels too overwhelming. It feels too big. It feels too scary. Whatever, we just kind of think, oh, I'm just going to leave that over there. I'm going to put that over there. I'm not going to worry about that for now. And then we keep doing that. We keep procrastinating on things that are actually really important and are going to push the needle forward in terms of our career or in terms of whatever it is that we need to achieve in our life. Can be a sign that we're inadvertently self-sabotaging. Interestingly, things like perfectionism can also be self-sabotage, which sometimes people are a bit like, what do you mean perfectionism? Like, isn't that a good thing? Like, isn't it a good thing that I want things to be perfect? And look, I mean, it's always good to have things that are professional, things that are done with intent and you've put effort into it. Absolutely. I think where it kind of draws the line into self-sabotage is when you're spending so much time on that task that you're neglecting other tasks to get this one task that, probably isn't even all that important anyway. There could be more important areas that you could be prioritizing your time again to move that needle forward in the direction that you want to go in your life. But you're kind of getting stuck sitting in that perfectionism space.
Yeah.
So I don't know that.
It's almost a procrastination technique, right?
Yeah, in a sense it is. And I don't know, I find that really interesting. Like, I think I resonate to both of those, to be honest. Like, definitely the procrastination, the avoid, and also trying to get things perfect. Like, I've had people that I've worked with who have said that they've spent 15 minutes rereading an email that was like 2 or 3 sentences before they'd hit send, or avoiding making phone calls until like the end of the day when they knew the person wouldn't be at the office so that they didn't have to talk to them, which then meant that they'd have to make that call again, which would then prolong the anxiety of completing that task moving forward. So there's lots of ways that self-sabotage can come up. And I think a lot of it is because we feel anxious or we're scared of failure, or sometimes it's even that we're scared of success. So in a way, self-sabotage, the ways that it plays out in our life, is kind of trying to protect us from, potential pain. But it's also getting in the way of us creating the life that we truly want for ourselves.
I love that. And it's so true. And I can think of many examples in my own life where that has happened and that's stopped me. And you need to get to that point where you say, I'm not going to do that anymore, or I really want this thing. Let's just do the small next step. Let's just take a baby step, do one thing to move us forward today, to make that phone call in the morning instead, for example. You said you wanted to chat a little bit more about imposter syndrome as well.
Yeah, I love that, like, because I think it definitely does play a part in self-sabotage. I think it plays a part just particularly with women as well, I think. And I mean, I know that I feel like an imposter a lot of the time. Like, even I remember saying to you before this podcast, I'm like, what do I know about self-sabotage? I don't know about self-sabotage. Everything I like have thought of with self-sabotage has just gone boop out of my mind. And so I think it's that thing that imposter syndrome really can kick in at any time. Which also gets in our way, doesn't it? Like, it really just holds us back. And I think it's all of these, what it really stems down to is just all of these beliefs that we hold about ourselves, which then, and they're based on all of those experiences that we've had in our past. And that thing, like all of those experiences that we've had in the past, come through our senses, right? Like that's how we experience the world, is through our five senses.
Mm.
And then those get trapped in our body. But then we have to make meaning of that. All of the information that comes in through our body, we have to interpret and make meaning of. And our brain does that. And if we have repeated experiences of, a time in primary school where we had to, I don't know, give a presentation and then kids laughed at us,
Yep.
that goes into the bank of, oh, speaking in front of people is scary. Like I'm going to be rejected. I'm going to be laughed at.
Yeah.
And then add a whole bunch of those experiences, whether it's with your parents who don't support you, or whether it's more experiences in high school. Then you get to a workplace and you have to say something in a meeting, and we put a label on it, imposter syndrome, but really it's a culmination of all of those experiences that we've previously had, where we're now like, I'm not good enough. I don't feel like I'm going to be okay at doing this. What if I say something wrong? What if everyone in the meeting laughs at me? Okay, cool. I'm just going to sit here and say nothing. But again, it's not going on at a conscious level. It's all kind of happening unconsciously because our bodies kind of remembered those past experiences, is bringing it up in the here and now. And then our mind is interpreting that meeting as a bit of an unsafe situation. So that's kind of where imposter syndrome and even that whole idea of self-sabotage comes into it, because we then begin to think and make assumptions about other experiences in the world, that they're dangerous, they're not safe, even though rationally we might be like, oh yeah, I know it's just a meeting. I know that the people around me are nice people. That past stuff continues to replay out in the here and now. And it can be really hard to acknowledge that sometimes, because again, we just live on autopilot. We're not consciously thinking about these things.
Yeah. Yeah, you've nailed it. Thank you. Um, so you are a performance coach and you help people get ahead in their careers. So you've seen how people self-sabotage, and how it holds them back in the workplace. Can you maybe give us some examples of some of the things your clients have experienced, and how you've helped them stop that cycle, how you've helped them move forward, or what they've done to help them do that?
Oh, there's so many examples. What I love though, which just warms my heart, and I just want to, I guess, caveat this by letting people know that obviously when I talk about any clients, these are kind of amalgamated experiences, because I don't want it to be one specific client, because I'm always mindful of clients' confidentiality. So just a little disclaimer on that. I remember working with someone though who would just get really stuck wanting to move into higher level positions, and was working in this pretty senior position where they had started to become responsible for managing a team of staff, and that was new to them, and they were really struggling with one particular staff member, and we're finding that that particular staff member was just really rude, obnoxious, difficult to deal with generally. And everyone else was fine, but this one staff member just seemed to push their buttons. And it got to the point where they were like, you know what, I don't know what to do. I think maybe I should maybe I'm not cut out for a managerial position. Maybe I need to go back into doing the work rather than managing teams. Although I do love it. I love the work, but I'm just really struggling with this one person. So we kind of took a little bit of a walk back through their past. And I don't like to live in the past. Don't get me wrong. Like, I know I talk about the past. I don't like to live in the past with my clients. But I do think that the past informs the future and the here and now. And so there's that balance of kind of working alongside the two. What we discovered through trying to identify the current emotion that was going on for her and linking it back to the past was that there was this experience where with her mother, she felt like she was not able to speak up. She was always silenced, particularly when mum was angry. So that fed into the dynamic that was playing out with this particular colleague. And once we kind of realized that, we utilized EMDR, which we could talk about in a whole other podcast, and got that client to kind of realize that, okay, this isn't your mum. This isn't the same relationship that you have, and process some of those emotions around that, which then meant that being able to manage that colleague was completely smooth, to the point that that client was then like, huh, I actually think I want to go for a promotion that's coming up. And I was just like mind blown, like, wow. We went from going from, maybe I should not be in a managerial position to, maybe I want to take this another step higher. So by being able to kind of unblock some of our emotional past means that we really can get out of our own way and stop letting that self-sabotage keep holding us back, so that we can achieve the goals that we do want in our life.
Yeah. That's amazing, Eloise. Thank you so much. Is there any other general tips or tricks that you want to just share a couple of them before we jump off?
Oh, tips or tricks? I think just being able to pinpoint your goals that you want in your life and think about the person that you want to be. In terms of not, I think it's always important to be mindful of who you are in the here and now, and not having this unrealistic expectation of ourselves and the goals that we want for ourselves that are not aligned. I don't know if that makes sense or not, but I guess I'm thinking about myself, and I'm digressing from your question a little, but I just wanted to be clear on that, because I think sometimes we can set goals for ourselves that are just not in alignment with who we are or what we want to be. But I think reflecting on your values, what is the life that I want to live? Who am I? What kind of values do I hold within myself? And how do I want them to play out? And then think about, okay, what are those, kind of like what you were saying before, what are those small things that I can do each day? And what are some of my own self-sabotage behaviors that do get in the way of me moving forward? And what am I going to do if I notice those kind of come up for me? So I think it comes down to being aware, but I also think that sometimes with self-sabotage, it can be really helpful to have somebody in your corner, whether it's a coach, a therapist, a mentor, somebody who can see things from the outside and look in, because sometimes when we're in it, it can be really hard for us to see.
Definitely. Yeah. So having a trusted, supportive person that you can chat with, because sometimes some people aren't safe, and they do and say things to keep you in the place that you are, which then means that we self-sabotage our success and we have those bad experiences. So
Keeps us in that loop.
Exactly. Yeah. We want to help you get out of the loop. But thank you so much for joining me, Eloise. It's been a really great conversation and I really appreciate your time. So if anyone out there wants to learn more about Eloise, the best place is to connect with her on LinkedIn or visit your website, which is eloisetomkins.com, and I'll put those in the show notes as well.
Amazing. Thanks so much for having me. It was great to chat.